Injured in an accident, call Sweet James. I'm Patricia Valencia, and up next, our special roundtable discussion on Arizona's teacher shortage on KTAR News.
This is a KTAR News special, Arizona's teacher shortage. KTAR News on YouTube, the KTAR News app, and 92.3.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this special roundtable discussion on Arizona's teacher shortage. I'm Joe Huizenga, joined by KTAR News Education Solutions reporter Shira Tanzer. Shira, good afternoon. Good afternoon. And we looked at a lot of data, and you covered a great deal of stories 2 weeks ago on this. We had a week-long series here at KTAR, and today we're going to hear from a number of experts and people who dove deep in certain areas of this. Refresh people's memory. When we talk about Arizona's teacher shortage, what areas did you look at a couple weeks ago on this?
I took a pretty overall look at where we're at now and kind of how we got there when it comes to the teacher shortage. So we really looked in depth at a lot of the data that went on statewide. A lot of the experts that we'll have on today took more specific focuses. So they looked really more in depth about specific districts or specific solutions or their legislators and lawmakers that are dealing with policy when it comes to teacher shortage. My stories kind of took a more overall approach. So some of the interesting things that I found is that Arizona's teacher shortage is actually double the national rate. So about 14% of Arizona teachers are actually leaving the classroom or did last year. And the national rate is only 7%. So we kind of took a deep dive into why that is happening. And it turns out there are so many factors. The biggest ones that are brought up by both teachers and lawmakers and, anybody in the education field are salary, number one, but also teacher support. So when we kind of look at salary overall in Arizona, teachers make an average of $64,000 a year. And the minimum living wage in Arizona is $71,000 a year. So we need to bridge that gap. That is something that we've been hearing from officials. We've been hearing from teachers themselves. The question is how? And when it comes to salary, it turns out that's a pretty hard problem to fix. So a lot of my stories really talked about why it's so difficult to bridge that gap, to renew Proposition 123, which is so big when it comes to boosting teacher salaries and putting more money into public schools in the state. But because that solution isn't something that necessarily is possible in the near future, we really looked at different solutions, and that really came down to support for teachers, whether that's from administrators, from the community, from other teachers. That was really something that a lot of teachers mentioned that they were struggling with. They were not feeling like they were appreciated. They were not feeling like they were involved in the discussions that went on involving them and their classroom. They weren't being supported when it came to misbehaving students. They were seeing pay freezes and having more work being put onto them and not being compensated for it, or just burning out because they weren't getting the back end support that they need. So we kind of took a look at all that and came up with some solutions from different experts that may help teachers feel more supported and therefore encourage more teachers to stay in the classroom. Everybody wants your kid to have a good teacher. And the problem is when a lot of teachers leave the classroom, we're seeing these vacancies that are either not being filled or they're being filled by non-certified staff, teachers that are not necessarily qualified to be teaching your child, that we are then seeing in the classroom. So we really took a look at the broader sense of where the teacher shortage is and then how we could potentially continue to help. And in the next hour and a half, we'll talk to so many people who have found their own solutions, but also their own problems, and really focus in on the different aspects of this crisis, how we really got here and what to do next.
My big question, as I've looked at this over the last week or so, and I've been in Arizona for the last 25 years, is it feels like this problem continues to get worse in Arizona. Is this a solvable issue in Arizona? And if it is, what is it going to take? Is it just dollars? Is it, you mentioned a lot of other things from, support in the classroom, support from administrators, support from voters, support from the community. What is it going to take to solve this problem? And is Arizona up to the task? Because you threw out the percentage. Arizona's double the national rate at 14%. But I think it's important to throw out the number of teachers, too. That's 8,600 teachers that were teaching in Arizona classrooms in the year, what would that be, 2023, 2024, that did not come back in 2024, 2025? Is that right?
It's 2024, 2025 data specifically.
Yeah, that 8,600 teachers left the classroom, 14%. So then you have to wonder too, what is that number going to look like as we look at this year with, all of Arizona schools back in session right now. And we talk about how important it is to have a certified teacher, a quality teacher in the classroom. And it doesn't mean if you have a teacher who does not have a teaching degree that they're a bad teacher. But I think everybody, when their kid is being taught by someone in Arizona, they want the best that they can get. You ask anyone out there, of course we want the best. Well, but are you willing to spend? Are you willing to devote the time? Are you willing to devote the resources that bring Arizona the best?
Absolutely. And when it comes to solving the problem, I don't think this is just a quick fix, one solution type thing, because there are so many factors involved in the problem. Like you said, it didn't just start this year. It's been ongoing over the past decade. It's been rising, becoming more of a problem. We have Red for Ed that played a factor in it. We have COVID that played a major factor in it. We have ESAs and the empowerment scholarship accounts that are playing a factor in it. Because there are so many factors that led to the shortage being this bad, that means that the solution will also need to include many factors. This isn't something that is just, you shove money at it and it goes away. This is something that you're going to have to start from something smaller, like teacher appreciation, like showing teachers that they are in control of their classroom and they have the ability to make changes on the back end when it comes to school districts and speaking out about what they want to see in their classroom. It's something that we're going to have to look at the community and what they want to see in the classroom and help fix that, but one thing at a time. It's not just one big solution. Oh, here we have the solution, let's fix it. It's let's build the solution step by step, bringing in one additional factor at a time to help adjust the issue, to help decrease the issue a little bit. But it's not something that we're going to see fixed quickly at all. This is something that will take years for sure. This is just a conversation about how do we start? Because right now, it doesn't really seem like anything has started to help to improve the issue at all.
It feels like we're heading in the wrong direction.
We are just declining. Right now, we're just looking for a solution to even us out a little bit, Yes, we want that shortage to decrease, but first, we kind of need to get our system, in a state where it is settled, where it is even, where we're not having teachers leave or come, So what we're looking at today is kind of what do we do to start fixing it?
We're going to hear from a number of journalists over the next hour. Samantha Ray with the East Valley Tribune and also Shannon Connor with the Luminaria in Tucson. Samantha Ray specifically took a look at specific examples from around the valley for why teachers are leaving. And Shannon Connor with the Luminaria in Tucson looked at teacher development and preparation. And then we're going to speak with Nohelani Graf and also Eric Trevino with the Arizona Republic. He looked at an area that I think is very interesting, talking about housing for teachers in some smaller, more rural parts of Arizona and what success that's having. Is that something that we need to look at for some of the larger districts in Arizona as well? And then Nohelani Graf with 12 News looked at districts that have had success with retention. So what have they done? Not necessarily the housing aspect, but what have some of these districts, more so around the valley, done that has been successful? In the 1 o'clock hour, we're going to talk with a couple politicians, Mitzi Epstein and Matt Kress from the Arizona legislature, find out from them, hey, what is the legislature doing? What has the legislature done? And what does the legislature need to do moving forward to try to stem this crisis, to improve it and make things better? And then we're going to wrap up our discussion this afternoon with Dr. Amanda Burke. She is the executive vice president of the Center for the Future of Arizona. She's going to go over a wealth of data with us, tell us kind of where things are as well. I know you have a tremendous amount of data as well. And she's going to share with us, hey, here's what this data shows, and here's what we're trying to get as well. So going to be a lot of things to dive into. Up next, we're going to talk with Samantha Ray from the East Valley Tribune and also Shannon Connor. Again, Samantha with the East Valley Tribune, specific examples from around the valley for why teachers are leaving, and Shannon Connor with the Luminaria in Tucson talking about teacher development and preparation. Shira, do you have a big question in particular that you look forward to asking them, or something in general that as we look at this crisis over the next hour and 45 minutes here, that you say, you know what, I want to come up with an answer to this? I know you've done a lot of reporting on this. What do you want to take away from today?
I really want to talk to the lawmakers specifically about what we could see change in the teacher shortage based on the upcoming election. You know, it's a big one. We have somebody new up for governor. We have potentially a Republican governor that could change the shortage. And then we will 100% have a new superintendent. And having a new school superintendent could change the outlook of the teacher shortage completely. So I really want to ask them what policies they're looking to push in the upcoming session that could potentially help kind of rein this problem in a little bit heading into the new school year.
Certainly looking forward to that. We will come back, continue our discussion with Samantha Ray from the East Valley Tribune, Shannon Connor with the Lumen area as well. And my big question today is this issue solvable in Arizona? And I believe it is. But again, it's going to take a lot of work. And what are we going to learn from these journalists, from a number of others, and these politicians? What is it going to take to make it a solvable issue here in Arizona? It's an Arizona teacher shortage roundtable discussion. She's Shira Tanzer, KTAR News Education Solutions reporter. I am Joe Huizenga. We'll be right back.
Got a stubborn clog slowing things down? Introducing Parker & Son's $89 drain clearing special. If you've got a ground level, easy access drain, Parker & Son's plumbers will clear it for just $89. Plus, you'll get a free camera inspection and free standard water heater maintenance. That's today's clog gone and future problems prevented. Call Parker & Sons at 602-2-REPAIR. That's 602, the number 2, then REPAIR for Parker & Sons. Standard water heaters only, no tankless.
There's a difference between buying a luxury car and being treated like you did. That difference is Genesis of Chandler. Right now, we're offering special 0% APR financing for 48 months on the ultra-luxurious 2026 Genesis GV80 3.5T and the striking GV80 Coupe. Handcrafted interiors, intuitive technology, effortless power. Own another luxury vehicle? Bring it in. You could qualify for up to $1,500 in additional bonus incentives. Our showroom on South Gilbert Road was built for one thing, taking your time. Sit in it, drive it, ask us anything. No pressure, no rush. Genesis of Chandler, a higher standard of driving and a higher standard of dealership. Visit genesisofchandler.com or stop by 1500 South Gilbert Road.
0% APR up to 48 months on select 2026 GV80 and GV80 Coupe models for well-qualified buyers through Genesis Motor Finance on approved credit. Monthly payment of $20.83 per thousand financed. Competitive owner bonus up to $1,500. Varies by model. Cannot combine with loyalty offers. Excludes tax, title, license, $699 document B, $998 protection package, and dealer options. In September 8th, 2026. See dealer for full details.
Hey, it's Mike Broomhead. Let's be honest, the Arizona summers are brutal, but local crime numbers can be even scarier, especially when it comes to protecting your home. If you think that doorbell camera or expensive alarm system is going to keep burglars out, think again. Professional thieves use Wi-Fi jammers, glass cutters to get in and out long before the police are notified. But you know what Wi-Fi jammers and glass cutters can't do? They can't get through Bulldog security screens. Just ask me. I went to Bulldog Security Screens factory in Tucson, where I attacked those screens with everything from a bowling ball to a sledgehammer, and the only thing I broke was a sweat and a baseball bat. Oh, and there's another added benefit. These screens block the scorching UV rays out of your house, and they look terrific because they look and act just like shade screens. You want real protection for your home? Get Bulldog Security Screens for your windows, patio doors, and entry doors. BulldogSecurityScreens.com. That's BulldogSecurityScreens.com. Bulldog Security Screens. They're tough.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free no-risk consultation. 800-346-2476. 800-346-2476. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-346-2476.
I'm Matt Morgan of Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. I've had the privilege of seeing miracles, broken families rebuilt, every crash, every workplace injury, every medical mistake. Fighting back can work. We've gone toe-to-toe with insurance giants, and we've won done a lot. Over $30 billion recovered. Size matters. Reputation matters. Results matter. There's only one Morgan & Morgan.
Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com. Arizona lawyer will handle Arizona cases. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.
KTAR News now.
Coming up on 12:30, good afternoon. I'm John Roller.
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living.
Iconic country music superstar Dolly Parton has passed away at the age of 80. She was known for her hits and her philanthropy over the course of her more than 60-year career. Her nephew, Brian Seaver, announcing her passing on social media earlier this morning.
Dolly opened doors not just for me, but for her entire family to reach the potential we didn't even know was possible. Dolly also opened doors for generations of singers, songwriters, musicians, and dreamers from every walk of life.
Dolly Parton had been experiencing health decline since the death of her husband last March.
A KTAR News exclusive.
And the U.S. Secretary of the Interior shed some light on why Arizona and our fellow lower basin states are responsible for cutting back Colorado River water usage, while the upper basin won't have any cuts. Secretary Doug Burgum tells the Mike Broomhead Show there's less water in the upper Colorado River basin.
But the upper basin states, we've got Utah, Wyoming, Colorado. There's very little water up there. I mean, this is the headwaters of the Colorado River. The dams that are up there are teeny.
Burgum did applaud Arizona for its conservation efforts, saving cuts to the lower basin will be manageable because the lower basin states agreed to the cuts earlier this year. You can read more water news at KTAR.com. KTAR has obtained court documents detailing allegations of a violent traffic stop by two Phoenix police officers. The now former officers, Antonio Felix and Luis Vasquez, said the stop began after they suspected the driver of being drunk. They claimed they feared for their lives when the two occupants refused to exit the car and began reaching around inside the vehicle. According to the documents, a forensic download of the officers' tasers shows Felix used his taser nearly 30 times during the interaction. The victims say the officers also drew their weapons, threatened to shoot them, and struck the male driver with a closed fist multiple times in the head, face, eyes, nose, and groin. Officials have announced this morning that a wildland firefighter from Arizona has died while battling the Frijoles fire in New Mexico. Randy Lupe, 62 years old, reportedly died following a medical emergency while fighting the New Mexico fire over the weekend. Lupe was a member of the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation and was acting as a Wildland Fire Service temporary emergency support crew member.
Arizona votes 2026.
Aside from Governor Hobbs, the incumbent Democrats down the ballot also maintain an early lead. That, according to a new poll from Noble Predictive Insights, it shows incumbent Democrats, Secretary of State Adrian Fontes and Attorney General Chris Mays, each with a 6-point lead. But the firm's CEO, Mike Noble, says the closest race for Superintendent of Public Instruction, where Republican Kimberly Yee holds a 3-point advantage.
This is basically a political jump ball. Yee has the only Republican lead in these 3 statewide down-ballot races, but is also the narrowest. The superintendent race is really a turnout contest. Younger voters are leaning towards Ruiz, older voters are leaning towards Yee, and independents are still very unsettled.
But he says all of this could change in a hurry, with all 3 races having a double-digit share of undecided voters. And let's get a check on your drive around town this noon hour, live from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. Phoenix Fire on the scene of a fire, 149th Drive and Astor Drive. That's actually in Surprise. Also have a very serious crash involving a pedestrian, 32nd Avenue and Indian School Road, and still have that crash on the east side at 56th Street and Thomas. Valley weather for this afternoon, mostly sunny. Our expected high 113 degrees, I should say. We do have the extreme heat warning until 8 o'clock Saturday. Tonight, clear skies with an overnight low of 85 degrees. And for Wednesday, mostly sunny and a high of 114 degrees. Right now, it is 108 degrees at Sky Harbor. Weather is brought to you by 72 Sold. Forget the traditional way. Sell your home in 3 3 days and pocket thousands more at 72sold.com. I'm John Roller, KTAR News. Now back to a KTAR special edition Roundtable, Arizona's teacher shortage.
This is a KTAR News special, Arizona's teacher shortage.
Good afternoon. As you just heard, this is a special on Arizona's teacher shortage, a roundtable discussion. I'm Joe Huizinga here with KTAR News, a host from Arizona's Evening News with Becky Lynn. Joining me is Education Solutions reporter Shira Tanzer. And also, we're going to be hearing from this segment Samantha Rea with the East Valley Tribune and also Shannon Connor with the Luminaria in Tucson. Samantha, we were getting to know you a little bit just now, and as Shira and you were going back and forth, this is such an important issue, and Shira and I highlighted in the last segment when we were talking, 8,600 teachers is the latest data, 14%. Arizona double the national average in terms of teachers who are leaving the classroom. Talk with us just a little bit in terms of what you covered when you dove into this issue.
Yeah, so I work with Times Media Group, and we have several hyper-localized publications across the valley. So I had to make sure that my work would really resonate in any of those areas. So I took a larger statewide approach. I looked at the top three factors that were cited by former educators as being most influential in their decision to leave the classroom. And then I brought those factors over to some of our state education leaders, and I asked them what's driving those factors, what's behind burnout. Excuse me. And what makes those personal life reasons so impactful on their decision to leave. And I heard some interesting and very creative solutions, but I also got to look on a local level at some of our districts in the East Valley, like Scottsdale Unified or Tempe Union High School District, and see some of those solutions in practice.
Okay. Cool. So you mentioned just a moment ago, so the three issues in particular that you looked at. So you mentioned burnout, and then also we all know teacher pay, such a critical issue. What was the third one?
Excuse me, yeah. So first, you're right, is compensation, a want or a need. Second would be burnout. And third is personal life reasons. And that includes things like childcare, health, pregnancy. And, districts can only control so much of that. And that was part of my discussion with education leaders, specifically Victor Diaz from West Ed.
And then Shannon Connor. Shannon, you join us from the Luminaria in Tucson. What did your pieces look at when you focused on Arizona's teacher crisis and this teacher retention issue that we see?
I teamed with Channel 13 News reporter Isabella Lisco down here in Tucson. And because as Shira and Samantha know, we were given a topic, which is teacher retention. And that's not necessarily a story idea. So just kind of shrink that and make it digestible for our viewers and readers. We focused on three areas. One was preparation, one was training, and the other was second and third jobs, what they have to do to be able to remain in the classroom. And we started with preparation. So we looked at one area and our teachers in Southern Arizona, how they are preparing to get ready to be in the classroom. The Arizona Teacher Residency Program was what we focused on. That's a program based at NAU, but it includes 18 teachers all over the state, started in 2023. And we have 2 teachers down here who are in the program. One is in his late 50s, one is in her early 20s, both about to enter the classroom. And the unique part of this program is that it's a 2-year master's program, free for the people that qualify and get in. And in return, they are put in the classroom right away. They don't just student teach in a final semester. They are put in the classroom right away. And at the end of their time, after their master's degree, they agree to stay within their district at a Title I school for 3 years as part of their program.
And Samantha, I know in your piece, you mentioned burnout just a moment ago in terms of one of these three key issues. And something that I thought was so critical is you talked about, you said, what do people need to know about being a teacher before they become a teacher? Because if they don't know about what they're going to be facing, they're going to burn out.
Right.
So when you looked at burnout, what did you hear from the experts who you spoke with?
So it's a lot of the little things that compound. And it's not that they're not taught these skills or these daily tasks in school. They're being taught how to complete an IEP, things like that. But they're not being taught how to manage all of those tasks when they're together on a daily basis, right? It becomes a lot very quickly. And so that was what I heard specifically in regards to educator preparation programs and mentorship. With burnout, they say to start addressing it, it has to start early, right? We have to start before they even get to the classroom. If they're not set up for success, they're going to burn out in those first few years.
Got it. Shannon, I actually wanted to ask you about those two teachers that you mentioned. You said they had quite an age gap. What we're kind of seeing when we look at the shortage is a lot of people tend to be a little apprehensive about getting into teaching right now with everything that's happening, with all these factors. So tell me a little bit about why each of those teachers that you spoke to chose to get into this profession, especially one you said in his 50s.
Yes. The two teachers are both they are teaching right now in the Marana School District. And they are very, very disparate in how they're approaching this. The teacher in his late 50s, Ruben came to teaching. He has come from a family of teachers. His parents, his siblings, they are administrators and teachers. He was a substitute early on after he earned his bachelor's degree at Arizona. Went into working on the ASDB, Arizona State Schools for the Deaf and the Blind campus. He started to manage their theater there. He has been there for decades. Well, when ASDB last spring decided it was going to close that campus, it became clear to Ruben he needed to find new work. And he went to a lunch. He had a daughter graduating from high school who'd earned a scholarship. They went to a luncheon. He found out that through networking at this luncheon, maybe he would want to apply for this program. And he said it sounded like a good idea. This guy is into everything. He writes books. He is part of multiple bands. He's a dad, and he was like, I'll try it. And so I think for him, it had just come to there weren't a lot of other options. And this had sort of been in his path and his history all along. And by the time we caught up with him this summer in Flagstaff, he was all in, ready to go and do this and try it. I mean, he was dedicated and had a lot of enthusiasm for it. But I will say, the age range of people in that program is 22 to 60. So we are seeing humans from all over the state who are seeing this as a career path that really could work for them for at least the next 5 years, because they're in the classroom for these 2 years with their mentor and then on their own teaching for 3 years.
Shannon, you mentioned as well that when you tackled your pieces, a big piece of what you looked at was second and third jobs as well for teachers. I think I'll just speak for the Valley because that's where I've lived most of my career out here. There's a number of people who have this misconception that, well, teachers have all this time off in the summer. They have such a great opportunity to just take on a second job if they need to. But also there's this misconception that teachers make this robust salary that they don't need a second job. Well, you mentioned third jobs. When you talk about second and third jobs for teachers, is this something that they're doing year round? Is this something that they are just doing during that break that they have from their teaching? What do second and third jobs look like for teachers?
Second and third jobs can look like anything. We really talked with Rebecca, who you referenced, and we really drilled down on her home life to sort of humanize this issue, she's a single mom of 3 kids. She teaches all day. She's in her 22nd year of doing it. And she also works at the Gaslight Theater, managing a staff of a wait staff a few nights a week. That's 30 extra hours a week. She coaches swimming. That's her 3rd job. So that she can be also around her kids. That was a compromise there. So we're looking at teachers who may coach a sport, who may also on the weekends be your ticket taker at the movies. We encountered, people who also in the summer, what do? They go grade AP exams in the Midwest, for a couple of weeks. We're talking any kind of jobs. I mean, Rebecca, certainly that's intense. I mean, she is working upwards of 70 hours a week. And that is just to get by. You have single teachers who are waiting tables on the weekends and working at movie theaters. It can be anything from a day a week, or maybe during that sport that they coach for a few months each year, making maybe between $3,500 and $5,000 to coach a sport. And that's a head coaching job. And as we know, those are not small,
Shannon.
So
Sorry, Shannon. I don't mean to cut you off right there. Thank you so much for that. Shannon Connor, the voice you heard right there with the Luminaria in Tucson, and Samantha Rea with the East Valley Tribune and Times Media Group. You two covered so much of this story. We look forward to hearing from you in the future as well. And a number of other journalists we're going to be joined by today as well. Nohelani Graf from 12 News coming up, along with Eric Trevino with the Arizona Republic. Shira Tanzer, KTAR News Education Solutions reporter. And I am Joe Huizenga, the co-host of Arizona's Evening News right here at KTAR. And you are watching and listening to a special on Arizona's teacher shortage, a roundtable discussion.
From the people who brought you It's the Dog Park comes...
Is that a new bump on your dog's neck? Or is that bump just a part of his neck? Could be a bug bite or something way worse.
Protect your dog from injury and illness with Progressive Pet Insurance.
Wait, there's another bump right by the first bump.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Coverage subject to policy terms.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Hi, I'm Tim Hall, senior partner at Morris Hall. My mom Wanda was a fantastic cook, and she taught me that every great recipe needs the right ingredients. Leave one out, it's just not the same. In honor of her legacy, her kids and grandkids started a cooking club called Wanda's Pantry. Each time we use her recipes, we're reminded that the things that we leave behind can continue to bring people together. Estate planning is the same. A trust, a will, powers of attorney, and healthcare directives all play an important role in helping protect the people you love and give your family peace of mind. For over 55 years, Morris Hall has had the honor of helping over 40,000 Arizona families create plans that protect what matters most. In honor of Mom, I'd love to share one of our family's favorite chocolate chip cookie recipes. Text cookie to 620-620 and we'll send it your way. Then, when you're ready, schedule your complimentary consultation with Morris Hall, where you're likely to find a fresh-baked cookie.
Morris Hall, Premier Estate Planning. Visit us at morrishall.com.
Who is Farm Bureau Financial Services? At our core, we're relationship builders. We're home and auto bundlers, life insurers, farm and ranch protectors, and retirement planners. We're neighbors, community members, and friends. We're the people you can count on now and for years to come. Find a Farm Bureau agent at fbfs.com/protect. Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company, Western Agricultural Insurance Company, Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company.
Arizona, your summer upgrade starts now during the Sanderson Ford Summer Sales Event. Get 0% financing for 36 months, 0 payments for 90 days, 0 maintenance fees for 2 years, and $1,000 towards your down payment on select Ford models. Summer won't last forever, and neither will these deals. So hurry in today and choose no hassle, no pressure, no nonsense. Choose Sanderson Ford.
Must be financed through Ford Motor Credit OEC. Not applicable on specialty models. See dealer for select vehicles that qualify. All offers expire 8/31/26.
More of our KTAR News Special, Arizona's teacher shortage.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Huizenga, co-host of Arizona's Evening News here at KTAR. Joining me is Education Solutions reporter Shira Tanzer here at KTAR. And we're talking about Arizona's teacher shortage, and we're having a roundtable discussion. Joining us right now, Nohelani Graf from 12 News, and also Eric Trevino from the Arizona Republic. Each of you, could you tackle for us, let's start with Nohelani, sure, what you focused on when you looked at this issue?
So as you heard from some of the previous panelists, we were given the task and you just take it where you will. So I decided to look at who's finding success so that maybe there are solutions within that, maybe something that other districts could mirror from what's happening. So I started with Tolleson because they have the highest teacher pay in the state. They have a teacher retention rate in the 90s. It has not come without controversy, but there could be solutions there. And they started with pay that was a big one. And the way that they did that, they got a lot of voter support over the years. It also, I think, mattered that their superintendent was formerly in charge of the money before he was superintendent. So he had a clear, very long-term picture. But then also talking to teachers in that district, they have their own district teachers union, so they have buy-in, they get a say, they feel like they are part of tackling whatever needs to be changed, and they feel like they're very supported, and that's where a lot of investment has gone within that district as well, is creating support staff. They, talked about how if they have an idea or they have a problem in the classroom, they let them know in the office, and somebody's there, if not that day, the next day, giving them support. Then I looked at other ways, some districts that they don't have the money. So we went to Creighton Elementary School District. Jay Mann is their superintendent. They certainly don't have a ton of money there, but they're doing what they can with rebuilds. So they can't build a brand new school, but they've been able to rebuild on their current campuses. And he feels that, there's a holistic piece to this where you have to like where you're going to work. And they're trying to, in their new builds, create the newest facilities possible that they can get, and they've asked for community input, and so they're creating buy-in within their community, which otherwise could be a district that has an aging community, which we've seen adds to that decline in enrollment. And then last I spoke to Phoenix Elementary School District number 1, the first to ever teach kids in the state. They were able to, one, they made really tough choices. They closed schools, and that's hard. But they then took that money and put it right back in teachers, and they got their salaries up. Are they the highest? No, but they've got a solid base to start with. Something really interesting, though, that they do is they lean on community partnerships. So they're not looking for state money. They're trying to find within the community. They've leaned heavily on a program through NAU. That's a resource for the profession. And what I think is really interesting is if you're in the teaching world, you can apply for your national credentials, your teaching credentials. It's like getting a doctorate. My mom was a teacher. I remember when she did this. It happened later in her career. It is rigorous. It is hard. You have to provide all this documentation and, examples of your work. They created a program in, unison with the NAU program that anybody who comes to teach in their district, whether you're brand new or new to the district, you're on a 3-year track to set you up for your credentials if you want to go after them. NAU and their program provides the cost funding for that, so they provide a grant. And so now that gives you a bump. You get a stipend when you have your national credentials. The district also is adding a bump for somebody who has their credentials. And you're ensuring that you've got top tier teachers in your district to help with more of that attention and bringing better teachers into your district. So a lot of different ways, not something that's going to work for everybody around, but some ideas to tackle that and to create more buy-in. And I think that's one of the things we heard from a lot of districts across the board. It's a lot of the same things, like you want money, you want to say, you need community support.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that a lot of what you brought up had to do so much with teachers feeling supported. That's something we've been hearing from teachers, all over. If salary can't be fixed, then support is really the thing that they're looking for. And Eric, your story also focused on support, but in a little bit of a different way. Can you kind of share what you found about housing?
Yeah, I mean, I think another similarity that I saw in all of our stories is how school districts really have to get creative. And I decided to focus on rural districts, particularly because they have less funding, because they sometimes have less students. So they really have to get creative and figure out solutions. And also with rural districts is that not a lot of young talent wants to go there because it's a small city. And in 2 districts that I covered, Prescott Unified and Chino Valley Unified, the housing is just really insane. I mean, Prescott has become, the superintendent said, like a retirement haven, and the median house price is like $700,000 or over $700,000. So what they did is they couldn't particularly offer like higher salaries, but they thought about how about instead of focusing on what you can earn or what teachers can earn, what can they save? And they did this with teacher housing. And it's really interesting. Each school district that I spoke to tackle this in a different way. For Prescott Unified, they actually worked with the city, and they built some houses, and they gave some of them to the city for their personnel. Chino Valley got some grants, but they also went into a debt that they were hoping to repay off in a little bit of time. And then I looked at reservations, because this is something that has been going on in reservations for a really long time. Baba Kavari, which is near Tucson, they have 41 units. And it's just interesting to see how different it all is. But one through line that I saw was that it really helps teachers feel supported. It helps them build a community. One teacher that I spoke with, her name was Risa Abro. She said that, she had moved into the city. She was new. She had nobody. And one of the fellow teachers who were also living in the housing union helped her set up for the first day of school. And, that kind of helps build that community, and it encourages teachers to stay. Another thing that I thought was so interesting was that in Baba Kavari, there's a lot of teachers from the Philippines. And so they purposefully get a smaller room where they have to have a roommate because they want somebody to share that life with, because they're here, they're away from their family. So it's just very interesting. But and they had to get really creative, but they also feel very supported, which helps with the teacher retention, right, and helping them stay longer.
Eric, did you have a sense for, you focused on smaller, more rural districts. If this was working for smaller, more rural districts, did you take away whether this could potentially work here around the valley or in some of the larger districts in the state? Or is this something that really is unique to more of the more rural parts of Arizona?
Well, what's interesting is I originally wanted to do Phoenix Elementary. That was in one of their agenda items, but they ended up going with a different route. I think they tried to build a community center. But so sometimes when you go in for a story, you think you kind of know everything, but this was something that was, it's still very useful. But at the time, this was like 10 years ago where it was in the works. But since then, there's been a lot of declining enrollment. And so the need for teacher recruitment is not as high, but teacher retention, the need for that is still there. So it's a little bit of an interesting situation. And what Chino Valley in particular has done is, instead of just focusing on teacher housing, well, now they got a lot of extra units that teachers can use for if they're going through a divorce and they need a housing, or if they're moving places and it becomes more of a transitional. So it's still a solution, just in a different way. But I think because a lot of Valley schools, especially in the East Valley, are still struggling with declining enrollment, I think it would be hard to justify that cost, because at the end of the day, housing is still very expensive.
And I will say that, like with Phoenix Elementary #1, so they're not providing their properties for housing, but they are working with a City of Phoenix partner to work with new incoming teachers to identify lower income housing and teacher specific housing, because same idea, they've got teachers that are commuting from outside the downtown area. It has gotten very expensive down there, and they want them to be able to bring their families so that their kids go there also. So, a different way to, maybe they're not investing in it. And then one of the other things of like cost of living in life that Tolleson did is they kept their benefits flat. So every time that they, when they increase pay, they also didn't change their benefits plan so that, any job you have, like you might get a raise and then your benefits went up and there went my money. So they managed to keep their benefit cost to teachers flat, which is also just paying attention to the whole picture, right?
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. And just a few minutes ago, you mentioned something that I think some people look at as having a nasty stigma here in the Valley. You said a teachers union, and you said that was something that the teachers in that district in particular, they really felt supported by that union. They felt that gave them a voice, which I think we hear from all teachers. Shira, I know you hear that. Eric, I'm sure you hear that. Nohalani, you mentioned that teachers want to have a voice. We've got about a minute left or so here. Could each of you talk about what that voice means, and does that come mostly through a union, or are there other ways that we could give teachers a voice?
I think there are other ways to do it. I mean, the big, bad, ugly union title, doesn't work for everybody, but I think so that you don't feel that disconnect between a school board and teachers. And it's like so many other jobs, don't you sometimes feel like they come in, they make a change, and you're like, you don't even do that job. You don't even know. Where like even hospitals have started redesigning with input from nurses, the people who are there. So I feel like a piece of that can certainly be replicated in a lot of other ways beyond just a survey where you feel like you might get in trouble. What would actually change your day? And somebody who can listen to it. I think there are ways to do that.
And I think just including teachers in the conversation goes a long way. I know, Shira, in your piece, you talked to Horn about classroom disruption or classroom behavior. And that's just something that I've heard a lot from teachers, where it's like part of feeling supported doesn't just come from stipends or pay. It also comes in like benefits, or what are you doing to make the workload less, causing burnout and things like that. So I think that's something that I'll definitely be looking into in the future.
Shira?
I mean, I think there are ways for teachers to weigh in beyond just a union. I do think a union gives teachers voices, and we see a lot of different districts. Deer Valley also has their own designated union that really gives those teachers their own voice. We also have the statewide union that a lot of teachers do participate in. Like you mentioned with Horn, with misbehaving students, it's just listening to teachers on the back end. They don't necessarily have to be part of a designated union to include them in the conversations that have to do directly with things happening in their classroom.
That voice, Shira Tanzer, KTAR News Education Solutions reporter. You also just heard from Eric Trevino with the Arizona Republic and Nohalani Graf with Channel 12 News. We're going to come back. We're going to hear from Matt Gress and Mitzi Epstein, two of our legislators, and dive in with them in terms of some solutions from the political side of the aisle. I'm Joe Huizinga, and this is an Arizona teacher shortage roundtable discussion right here on KTAR News.
KTAR FM, Glendale, Phoenix. KTAR News now.
It's 1 o'clock. I'm Kellen Shover.
And the flowers still grow.
Iconic country music superstar Dolly Parton has passed away at the age of 80. Parton was known for her hits and her philanthropy over the course of her more than 60-year career. Here's Parton from a 1982 ABC News exclusive interview with Barbara Walters talking about what success means to her.
You know, I've worked hard and I had a lot of dreams. I've worked not only for myself but for other people. And it's like now I want to enjoy, really enjoy the more simple things rather than just going full blast.
A KTAR News exclusive.
The U.S. Secretary of the Interior shed some light on why Arizona and our fellow lower basin states are responsible for cutting back Colorado River water usage, while the upper basin won't have any cuts. Secretary Doug Burgum tells the Mike Broomhead Show there's less water in the upper Colorado River basin.
But the upper basin states, we've got, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado. There's very little water up there. I mean, this is the headwaters of the Colorado River. The dams that are up there are teeny.
Burgum did applaud Arizona for its conservation efforts, saying cuts to the lower basin will be manageable because the lower basin states agreed to the cuts earlier this year. You can read more water news at KTAR.com. And 113 heat-related deaths have been confirmed by the Maricopa County Department of Public Health. The department also says there are another 584 deaths being investigated as heat deaths. The county reminding you to 1. Know your risk, 2. Protect yourself, and 3. Protect others. Anyone who needs a safe space to cool off can find a location by visiting maricopa.gov/heat or call 211. An international fugitive who fled to Mexico has been sentenced to prison. Antonio Rios shot and killed Jose Juan Lopez in 2022 following an argument in a parking lot of a bar near 51st Avenue and McDowell Road. Following the shooting, he fled to Mexico, where he remained a fugitive for 3 years. In September, he was extradited to Arizona to face charges. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell charged Rios with second-degree murder, and he has been sentenced to 18 years in prison. And taking a look at Wall Street as markets close for the day, the Dow Jones was up 160 points, the Nasdaq was up 171 points, and the S&P 500 was up 24 points. For more money news, visit the Business Center at KTAR.com. And now for a check on traffic from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. Phoenix, we've got a crash involving a pedestrian. This is at 32nd Avenue and Indian School Road. Phoenix, we got a crash at 49th Street and Bell Road. Tempe, on Broadway Road, we've got a crash there. This is just east of Priest Drive. And El Mirage, we have a crash at the intersection of Grand Avenue and Thompson Ranch Road. KTAR weather for the Valley. We've been talking heat, and an extreme heat warning is still in effect till Saturday at 8 p.m. Keep it here to KTAR to hear all the updates on that. Today we have a high of 113 degrees, a low of 88 degrees tonight. And it's 109 degrees right now in Phoenix. Weather's brought to you by 72 Sold. Forget the traditional way. Sell your home in 3 days and pocket thousands more at 72sold.com. I'm Kellen Shover on Arizona's news station, KTAR News.
This is a KTAR News special. Arizona's teacher shortage. KTAR News on YouTube, the KTAR News app, and 92.3.
Good afternoon and welcome in. I am Joe Huizinga, co-host of Arizona's Evening News, joined by Shira Tanzer from KTAR News as well. She's our Education Solutions reporter. And joining us right now, two politicians, Matt Gress, Republican representative on the Education Committee here in Arizona, and Mitzi Epstein, Democratic Senator on Arizona's Education Committee. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this afternoon and tackle such an important issue, Arizona's teacher shortage, and this roundtable discussion we're having this afternoon.
Thanks for inviting us. It's such an important topic. Joe, Shira, glad to be here.
All right, so I really wanted to kind of kick things off by talking about teacher salary. Prop 123 is something we've heard thrown around by so many lawmakers as kind of the top thing that would get teacher salaries boosted in the state. And I've spoken to Governor Hobbs and Superintendent Horn about it. Both seem to want Prop 123 renewed, and it seems to be kind of bipartisan when we talk about getting that renewed. So why hasn't it been passed yet? And are there other legislative ways to get that salary boosted in the upcoming session?
If I may, as you know, the Democrats have been supportive of more money for teachers, more money for schools. The way to improve school funding is to increase the funding for schools in a comprehensive way. So we're all in. But honestly, I've heard some folks across the aisle talk about how they just don't want to increase money for schools. And that is, the bottom line. When you elect people who say that our schools should not get any more funding, that's a problem.
Representative Gress.
That's not the viewpoint of the Republican caucus. We will never check the box on investing in K-12 education. And I do think it's important to note that we've made a lot of progress on teacher pay. Since 2020, we have raised the average teacher salary by 20%. But the growth has slowed to 1% in 2025. And in 95 school districts, salaries have fallen. So it's really important to put that into perspective of why we need to raise teacher pay. Now, Republicans put forward a proposal to raise teacher pay by ensuring that the dollars from Prop 123 renewal actually get to the teachers. Unfortunately, other proposals supported by Senator Epstein and the governor want to distribute the money to all employees when we don't have an administrator shortage, we have a teacher shortage, and divert it to other things like school capital. When you diffuse that amount of money to so many different needs, you're not going to get the kind of increase in salary that you need to address the growing teacher shortage here in the state of Arizona.
Senator Epstein, you heard what Representative Gress said right there. Is that true? Do you want to see this be spread across the board, or do you want to see it go to teachers primarily?
I wonder if he can hear himself. So our schools buildings have some very serious structural problems that it is the responsibility of the people of the state to fix them. So they actually need funding too. Plus, it's not just teachers versus administrators. There are a whole lot of support folks who also need funding, and they are key to a really great education for our kids. So technology expertise, counselors, literacy and math coaches are a proven method, one of the most efficient, best way to get best bang for the buck to improve math and literacy is a literacy coach. So, and those are the things that are not part of instructional pay. So if we want to take care of our students, we really need to look at comprehensive funding. And just saying, oh, we raise teacher pay is silly. That's only a piece of the picture. In order to really help students, we have to help the pay of the people who help teach students, not just one kind of the person who teaches, which is the classroom teacher. We need all these other things that really support a vibrant education for our kids.
To kind of switch gears a little bit, Representative Gress, I wanted to ask you about the upcoming election. We have the potential to have a Republican governor coming up. How would that impact the teacher shortage and really any policy that impacts teachers directly in the next year?
Republicans are the pay teachers first party. That's what we intend to do. When Congressman Biggs wins governor this November, we're going to put forward a bold plan to leverage Prop 123 to address things like teacher pay so that we can address the shortage, as well as tackle other problems such as our early literacy and low numeracy scores. So if you want to see less money go to the bureaucracy and more money go to the classroom, then you want to vote for Republican Andy Biggs.
Senator Epstein, what do you think we could see in the legislation if Biggs does win the election in November?
Well, our current governor, Katie Hobbs, has been focused on great quality teaching her whole career. And I think that if voters want somebody who's going to be focused on what do the students need, they want Governor Hobbs. Because I keep hearing my Republican colleagues talk about, we're going to fix teacher pay. And teacher pay is just not the whole picture. We're going to help support students in the Democratic Party, and that means comprehensive improvements in funding for schools.
I'll ask both of you as well. We're going to have a new superintendent of public instruction. Tom Horn did not win the primary. So regardless of if that's a Republican or a Democrat, the problem that I've seen in Arizona is it feels like if we have a Republican superintendent of public instruction and a Democratic governor, it feels like that superintendent cannot accomplish their agenda at all if the governor decides to come in and strike it. So I'll ask both of you, how optimistic are you with a new superintendent of public instruction, whether that be a Republican or a Democrat coming in, that we will see improvement in the upcoming year?
Well, I'm glad to see that the superintendent of public instruction will change, because we certainly need a change there. We need a superintendent who understands what it is to be a teacher and what it is to be the person who helps students. Again, that focus on students, not on how to punish them, which has been Mr. Horn's approach far too often, and not how to divert funding to other places where we've had to suffer through, instead of having a superintendent of public instruction who said, let's make our public schools be as strong as they can, and let's make sure all our kinds of education can be as strong as they can and supported. Let's just do advertising to tell people, go to a private school because I've given up. He has given up on helping public schools. So we need somebody with an eye towards let's help all of education, because it is the superintendent of public instruction, not just the superintendent of ESAs.
Representative Gress?
So Treasurer Kimberly Yee is the Republican nominee, and she has extensive experience in education policy. She was the chairwoman of the Education Committee in the Senate. She was the majority leader who led the effort to enact the 20 by 2020 plan to raise teacher pay by 20%. And she helped craft budgets that increased K-12 spending at the fastest rate in modern Arizona history. I believe that Treasurer Yee has a record of working in a bipartisan fashion. She will work with a Republican governor, a Democrat governor, but her eye is going to be on outcomes and accountability, to know that kids are actually learning, and to move the needle on student academic performance, because we have high graduation rates but low proficiency rates, and that means that our high school diplomas are becoming more and more meaningless as the time goes on. So she's going to be supporting our teachers and our parents and families to know what good educational options are out there, and for those that need help, make them better.
That is Representative Matt Gress. He is on the Education Committee here in Arizona, and Mitzi Epstein, Democratic Senator as well. We thank you both so much for your time this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing some things get done for positive change in the legislature, the Republicans and Democrats both working together, and whatever change the election brings, we look forward to covering it, and we hope to see this issue involving Arizona's teacher shortage, hopefully seeing some improvement in the near future. Thank you so much for both your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Shira Tanzer, KTAR News Education Solutions reporter. We're going to be joined next segment by Dr. Amanda Burke. She's the Executive Vice President of the Center for the Future of Arizona. I know you've spoken with her a little bit as well in the past. What are we going to look forward to hearing from her up next?
The Center for the Future of Arizona really looks into data and the trends, how we got to this point in the teacher shortage, and kind of where we could be going in the future. She'll really dive into a lot of the numbers, what it looks like now. You know, talking to teachers, we're hearing about all of these issues, but why are we seeing these issues? How did we get to salary being at the level that it is in the state? And she'll be able to fill us in a little bit on what we've seen in the past decade that led to our crisis being this bad.
This is a KTAR News special covering Arizona's teacher shortage, a roundtable discussion. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hey, it's Mike Broomhead. Got a great deal for you right now. When you call Central Valley Dentistry and mention my name, just say Broomhead, get $1,500 off a complete dental implant smile restoration, including your final zirconia teeth. No hidden fees, no surprise costs. That's the deal. Now, you know me. I don't put my name behind anything unless I really believe in it. I believe in Dr. Behbahani and the team at Central Valley Dentistry. They're a full-service smile makeover center, everything under one roof. All on for implants, Invisalign, veneers, crowns, even treatment for snoring and sleep apnea. It's simple and very straightforward. Whether you're dealing with missing teeth or you're just ready for a full smile makeover, they've got you covered. You can call their office at 602-246-0385. Mention my name, Broomhead, get that $1,500 off right away, or go to centralvalleydentistry.com. That's centralvalleydentistry.com. The Smile Makeover Center.
I'm not one to say I told you so, but I switched to Pure Talk over a year ago, and ever since, I've been telling people there's no better wireless company out there. Well, a few months ago, a massive survey was conducted. 123,000 people were asked to rate their wireless carrier in 4 categories: coverage, support, data, and overall value. Well, the results are in. Guess which wireless company was the only wireless company to get 5 stars in every category? Yeah, Pure Talk. 5 stars, every category. To celebrate, Pure Talk is offering the first 3 months of any plan for just $15 a month, including their top-tier unlimited plan. No contract, no commitment, just a very inexpensive way to test drive the only American wireless company with 5 stars in every category. Just dial pound 250, say micro, and Pure Talk's U.S. customer service will take it from there. Again, pound 250 micro. And yes, I told you so.
When your joints hurt every day and you've been told you need surgery, it can feel like there's only one option. But remember, once a joint is replaced, there's no going back. Before you schedule surgery, get a second opinion from QC Kinetics. Whether it's bone-on-bone arthritis, a torn meniscus, or years of wear and tear, surgery isn't the only conversation you should have. Talk to QC Kinetics about how they use regenerative treatments to deliver relief to patients like you here in Phoenix, Scottsdale, Peoria, and Chandler. They concentrate tiny healing tools within your body right in the spot that's actually causing the pain. The whole idea is to give you a real shot at holding off on surgery, or in some cases, avoiding it altogether. Don't just accept surgery is your only choice. Call QC Kinetics today for a second opinion. The consultation is totally free. Clinics in Phoenix, Scottsdale, Peoria, and Chandler. 602-837-PAIN. That's 602-837-PAIN. 602-837-PAIN.
I'm Ultima Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Every time one of my children started driving, it was terrifying. I am quite aware of the dangers being on the road. Thousands of accidents happen across the country. We see it every day. These families' lives will be changed in an instant. We fight for these families as if they were our own. We've become America's largest injury law firm by winning cases just like these. If you've been injured in a car accident, call us.
Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Nobody wants to think about their toilet until they have to. A weak flush, water that runs on its own, or low water levels in your bowl, your toilet is telling you something. Ignore it long enough and it becomes a costly repair. Parker & Sons offers a toilet tune-up for just $89. A full inspection that catches small issues before they turn into big ones. And if anything needs fixing while we're there, the $89 fee is waived. Call or text 602-2REPAIR and get your toilet tune-up scheduled with Parker & Sons today.
More of our KTAR News Special, Arizona's teacher shortage.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Huizenga, co-host of Arizona's Evening News, joined by KTAR News Education Solutions reporter Shira Tanzer right now. And this is a special focused on Arizona's teacher shortage, a roundtable discussion. And this segment, we are joined by Dr. Amanda Burke. She is the Executive Vice President of the Center for the Future of Arizona. So you're really focused all on making issues in Arizona, making them better, improving them. And we've heard so much that the big stat that's thrown out there is that Arizona doubled the national average, 14% in terms of teachers leaving the profession, over 8,000 teachers leaving. And I know Shira focused on that in a number of her pieces. And I think the big question that we have here, Shira, and you feel free to design this exactly for where you want to go, but why are teachers leaving? Why can't Arizona retain teachers?
I think that's a great starting point. What have you found? Well, you just named the significance of the issue and the fact that this is a persistent challenge for us in Arizona. So certainly Arizona is not alone. Many states are grappling with this issue, but it is particularly pronounced here. 14% of our educators are choosing to leave public teaching, nearly twice the national average. And again, for listeners to put that into numbers, that means 8,500 educators are leaving, 1 in 7. So when you have that scale, it is a really persistent issue. And when we think about attraction and retention, we are not going to simply be able to attract new teachers at the pace. We have to be able to pay attention to retention as well.
Got it. So we focus a lot on salary and support are kind of the two main reasons that we've heard from teachers, lawmakers, officials when it comes to issues that teachers are facing. You spoke a little bit about before we started the segment about the economics of it all. Mm-hmm. So what have you found kind of when we look at teacher salary, how teachers are doing outside of the classroom, and then how that impacts them wanting to stay or leave?
So we cannot ignore the fact that compensation is an important part of the issue when it comes to teacher retention. So we know that Arizona is below the national average. Our average salary for teachers is around $64,000, nationally $74,000. So right there you see a pretty significant gap. While Arizona has made investments in the last 10 years, many other states have been doing the same. I think one of the challenges we face is that if you're an educator in Arizona and you're looking to earn more, you can go to neighboring states. Not only California, but you can go to Utah, you can go to Nevada and make comparably more.
So salary, obviously a huge issue, but then when we talk about that support piece, I think that is critical, but to so many people, that's a nebulous issue when they hear, well, how to support teachers. Does that mean from the administration? Does that mean from the community? What does support to a teacher look like, and what can we as Arizona do to better support teachers beyond just getting them that additional $10,000 plus to get up to the national average?
Mm-hmm. I think the point about support is really important, and I think it can be addressed at multiple levels. So when we think about educator retention, it really is a workforce issue, and we need to be thinking about it as a workforce strategy, no different than any other important economic area of focus for our state. So that means that the state, districts, and individual schools, and certainly communities, as you identified, have a role to play. So that support can look like working conditions, school districts and individual school leaders have a really significant role to play in those working conditions. We know teachers experience their job through far more than a paycheck. That support, when you're a brand new teacher in a school, what does the mentorship and induction look like? Is it a sink or swim model, or is there a plan to support you not through just the district level, but at the individual school level? So those are a couple examples of what support can look like in practice.
We spoke to quite a few journalists in the last hour who gave kind of their own solutions in unique ways that school districts can help to kind of rein in the teacher shortage. Some of them brought up different housing stipends. Some of them brought up having district-specific unions. Is that something that you're seeing is an issue when it comes to support outside of just salary, that teachers may be lacking in those areas?
Well, I think what we know from the research and the stories from right here in Arizona is that this is not a single solution. Compensation is part of it, and so are a number of other aspects. And I think the good news is we know what the needs are, we know what can work, and we can work on implementing. In terms of solutions, we talked a little bit about support, mentorship, and induction. That is something that school districts can choose to do. School districts can also look at strategies around compensation models. They can look at protecting teacher time. Teacher workload is one of the reasons that teachers are saying that they are choosing to leave the workforce. How are school districts and, importantly, school leaders protecting teacher time? Another opportunity is engaging teachers and having a voice in what happens in their classrooms. So teachers are leading teaching and learning. Many teachers want to have a say in what is happening in the classroom. So those are all actionable strategies.
You mentioned workloads, you mentioned workloads. When a district is facing teachers that are already leaving, how are they supposed to manage that issue without putting that workload on other teachers?
Yes, when a teacher leaves, it's not like the work goes with them. And so this is a vicious cycle that we're facing in Arizona. So we have this revolving door, we have scale of issue, and when a teacher leaves, often what happens is their workload gets distributed, or maybe there's a substitute and other responsibilities are carried out. I think this is an area where school districts and principals can engage teachers in part of the solutions. What can we do together to be able to protect teacher time and to reduce workload? I know there have been districts that have had creative solutions. So, for example, Phoenix Elementary, I believe, worked with Valley Leadership and said, partner with us on substitutes so that when we have a teacher who maybe workload, giving them more time for professional learning in school, more time to be able to plan. How can we bring in substitutes without adding a cost to the district?
Last one for you here before we pivot to some of the solutions and some of what is working here in Arizona. You mentioned a vicious cycle a moment ago, and I think Arizona sees that in particular with some of the closing of the schools that we see throughout the state, and then also the empowerment scholarship accounts, which some people see as a huge positive. Some people say, we need to rein this in a little bit. And is that contributing to some of the closing of the schools? How do you feel that dynamic works? And are they a positive in terms of helping teachers? Obviously, no one wants to see schools close and go away. But as we see some of the schools close and we see some private or charter schools start to flourish, are there opportunities for Arizona to really fortress and come in and impact the schools that are continuing to stay open in the public school system? And is there something that can be done with the ESA system that can help teachers as well?
I think that, you make a great point that there are multiple factors influencing what's happening in education right now. I think there is, again, opportunity to engage educators when school districts are facing school closures. What do educators think should be on the table as part of the solutions that really enhances student success? So I think that that's one piece. We also, I think, are grappling far too often with teacher retention when a educator gives their resignation. So we know 8,500 teachers on average are choosing to leave public teaching. Mm-hmm. Some might be going to private schools. Some are retiring. Some may be leaving the profession, period, because of economic pressures. We have an opportunity in Arizona, and school leaders in particular, to ask educators much earlier, what would make you stay? why, if you're considering leaving, what is that, so that we can get out front and start to address those. And through that, I think we can learn a lot, including from teachers who are thinking about making other choices, so that schools have that information and can do something about it before the resignation.
Well, let's come back and talk about that. What can we do to keep teachers here in Arizona? That's Dr. Amanda Burke. She's the Executive Vice President of the Center for the Future of Arizona. And joining me right now is KTAR News Education Solutions reporter Shira Tanzer. I am Joe Huizinga, and we will be back with more here on this Arizona Teacher Shortage Roundtable right here on KTAR News.
In baseball, every decision matters. One pitch can change the game. I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. And like a good manager, building a strong financial plan takes strategy and the right team.
Torey Lavello here. Jeff's right. In baseball, you can't just watch one part of the field. You have to see the whole game.
And that's how we think about financial planning. Most advisors just manage investments and refer you somewhere else for taxes or estate planning.
But the best teams work together.
Exactly. At Trajan Wealth, we built a family office model that brings everything together. Wealth, tax, estate. One team making sure every part of your plan plays well together.
That's why I trust Trajan Wealth. With my family's plan, they see the whole field.
Call Trajan today. 855-TRAJAN-1. That's 855-TRAJAN-1.
Advisory services through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Paid advertisement. Other services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures at TrajanWealth.com.
Hello, everybody. Eric Bryan, owner of Precision Air and Plumbing. If your air conditioning quits during the Arizona summer, you're already suffering enough. The heat, the inconvenience, and the unexpected expense can be overwhelming. That's why we're extending this offer through the end of August. Save up to $2,500 off a new AC unit, 0% financing for 5 years, and the Valley's only 10-year workmanship warranty. Make the Precision decision today. Call 602-FIX-MY-AC or go online at precisionairandplumbing.com.
Why are so many car shoppers heading to Earnhardt Hyundai in North Scottsdale? Usually it's our famous no bull pricing, friendly service, and massive inventory. But right now through Labor Day, the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event takes savings to a whole new level. Looking for flexibility? Drive home in a new 2026 Hyundai Tucson with 0% APR financing for 60 months, plus no payments for 90 days. Need more space? Shoppers may get that same offer on select Santa Fe and Santa Fe hybrid models. And every Hyundai is backed by Hyundai Assurance, America's best warranty. A 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Don't wait. Test drive your favorite today at Earnhardt Hyundai in North Scottsdale or visit NorthScottsdaleHyundai.com.
0% APR for 60 months is $1,667 per 1,000 financed. Deferred payment offer for 90 days on select 2026 Tucson and Santa Fe models on approved credit through HMF, plus tax, title, license, and dealer fees. Offer ends September 8th. See dealer for details.
Hi, it's Lisa Lund. Imagine finding the perfect home, only to find out that you're not quite ready to make an offer. It happens more than you think. Here's a little insider tip. Before your realtor starts showing homes, one of the first things they're going to ask is, have you been pre-qualified? And when you find the right home, the seller will want to see your pre-qualification. I've never had anyone tell me they regretted getting pre-qualified first. I've talked to plenty who wish they had. So save yourself the frustration and call Lund Mortgage today, or go to lundmortgage.com.
KTAR News now.
It's 1:30. I'm Kellen Shover.
Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my
Country superstar Dolly Parton has died. She was 80 years old. The announcement made from the family of the singer on social media, her nephew, Brian Seaver.
Dolly called me and said she wants to rest in a beautiful bed of plush cotton because after a life wearing heavy rhinestones, she finally deserves to be comfortable and have some rest. Rest in peace, Aunt Dolly, Aunt Granny, Gigi. May God bless Dolly Parton, and may God bless you all. She will always love you.
Dolly Parton had been experiencing health decline since the death of her husband last March. Canada is issuing a series of retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports. It's in response to the 50% tariffs the Trump administration has imposed on Canadian goods coming into the U.S. Canada's tariffs, depending on the good, could be as high as 50%. Canadian officials say they were offered a deal from the U.S., but it wasn't fair. Ontario Premier Doug Ford told ABC News the auto industry will be hurt the most by the tariffs and urges the U.S. to come back to the negotiating table.
No deal is better than a bad deal. It would have bled out our steel industry, and we buy more steel off the U.S. than any other country. It would have hurt our auto sector, and our auto sector is so integrated since 1960s, the auto pack. Parts will go back and forth 8 times before they get assembled, either in Ontario or another auto state.
KTAR has obtained court documents detailing allegations of a violent traffic stop by 2 Phoenix police officers. The now former officers, Antonio Felix and Luis Vasquez, said the stop began after they suspected the driver of being drunk. They claimed they feared for their lives when the 2 occupants refused to exit the car and began reaching around inside the vehicle. According to the documents, a forensic download of the officers' tasers showed Felix used his taser nearly 30 times during the interaction. The victims say the officers also drew their weapons, threatened to shoot them, and struck the male driver with a closed fist multiple times in the head, face, eyes, nose, and groin. And let's get a look at traffic from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. Mesa, we've got a crash on the Loop 202 Red Mountain Freeway. This is eastbound and it's near Gilbert Road. Phoenix, we have a crash at Central Avenue and Mojave Street. And also Phoenix, we've got a crash on Dobbins Road. This is just east of 43rd Avenue. KTAR weather for the Valley. We have an extreme heat warning that's in effect until Saturday at 8 p.m. So be advised if you're going outside to stay hydrated, stay cool. Today we have a high of 113 degrees and a low of 88. Tomorrow we'll have a high of 114. And we'll keep rocking those high temperatures as we close the week. 113 Thursday, 112 on Friday. It's 109 degrees in Glendale, and weather's brought to you by 72 Sold. Forget the traditional way. Sell your home in 3 days and pocket thousands more at 72sold.com. I'm Kellen Shover on Arizona's news station, KTAR News.
KTAR News on YouTube, the KTAR News app, and 92.3. This is a KTAR News special, Arizona's teacher shortage.
Joining me this afternoon is KTAR News Education Solutions reporter Shira Tanzer. I am Joe Huizinga, the co-host of Arizona's Evening News, and we are talking about Arizona's teacher shortage. It's a roundtable discussion, and joining us right now, Dr. Amanda Burke. She is the Executive Vice President of the Center for the Future of Arizona, and we just spoke for about the last 10 minutes or so about why teachers are leaving. Now we want to dive into more on what we as a state can do, what we as elected leaders can do, what we as individuals can do to make sure that we are holding on to teachers and getting them to stay in the profession and grow this profession in Arizona that we all feel is so vital to seeing the state become the best and as good as it can be. Shira, where do you want to go here with Dr. Burke?
Yeah, you mentioned teacher pay penalty before and how it's not just about base salary when we look at the numbers. So if you could just explain what that is and why it's impacting our classrooms, that'd be great.
Yes, so we know compensation is one of the important factors facing teachers and the challenges that we have around teacher attrition in the state. We also know in Arizona that affordability is an issue that is top of mind for many Arizonans. Our recent survey data shows that nearly half of Arizonans are saying affordability is an issue for them personally. When you look at teacher compensation, there's something called the teacher pay penalty, which is looking at the comparable compensation of teachers against similar college-educated professionals. Arizona teachers earn roughly 34% less than comparable college-educated professionals. So that means they're earning 66 cents on every dollar. So if you are thinking about already being squeezed economically, that difference is significant, and I think something to pay attention to. Arizona is actually in the bottom 3 states when it comes to the teacher pay penalty. And then I think that also helps explain why so many teachers have another job to make ends meet. You know, we talk about working conditions and stress being one of the contributing factors that sometimes pushes a teacher to make the decision to leave. Nearly 30% of teachers say that they are working another job to make ends meet. So I think there's a bigger economic conversation to have about why we're seeing educators make the decisions that they're making.
So what can we do to turn that around? If we see here in Arizona that teacher pay penalty is so what would the word be, so punishing, what do we do here as a state to turn some of that around? We've mentioned we need to up the salary for teachers, but that's so easy to say, so tough to do, it seems like.
Yes. Well, part of that is the political will. Arizona's survey Center for the Future of Arizona survey research consistently points to the fact that Arizonans overwhelmingly agree on these issues. Arizonans want to see great educators, great school leaders in every single school.
Both sides of the aisle.
Yes, and that's what I mean, exactly. And
Mhm.
we look, thank you for saying that, because we look to see where is there agreement. There's agreement on that no matter your political stripe, your age, or where you live in the state. So the question becomes, how do we translate this into action? Pay is one piece of it. It is not the only piece. But when we think about where are the solutions, I think we have opportunity and need to look at this at the state level, the district, and the individual school. And at the state really does have the ability to look at pay and also looking at pathways that are affordable for more educators to come into the field. So they do have a responsibility and a role to play in that. And again, pay is not the only piece, so there's lots of room for action at the district and school levels as well.
Can you give some examples of those, how districts can support teachers, how individual schools can support teachers even without that financial boost?
Yes. So teachers say that one of the reasons that they choose to stay is because of the culture, feeling supported, feeling valued, having a voice, feeling some agency and autonomy. And those are all factors that are well within the control of school districts and schools. So educators matter to student success. And right next to educators are school leaders. And one of the reasons for that is that school leaders set the tone on a campus. They set the tone for that positive culture and that positive working environment. So things that school districts can do is look at, with the compensation models they have, how can they attract teachers and also incentivize them to stay. Individual school leaders can look at things like, how am I protecting teacher time? Is there a way that I can structure the day where teachers still have time to do planning and prep versus asking them to do that outside of school? So there are a number of things that can be done.
When you mentioned the teacher pay and that there's a number of things that these districts can do regarding shifting some dollars around, does that become a robbing Peter to pay Paul situation? Are we getting teachers the money but taking it away from other areas of classroom support, whether that be, the librarian or the teacher's assistant or some of the others, to boost the teacher pay? And does that in turn hurt more than it even does help?
I think it's an important question, because we know the working conditions matter. That's why it's really important to look at what are the dollars going into the classroom, of course, but what's happening within the larger school setting. So if funding is cut for support professionals or bus drivers or the attendance administration, where do those responsibilities get placed, and are we creating other problems? So I think that has to be part of the conversation as we're looking at policy solutions in Arizona so that we don't have unintended consequences. I know there are some districts that have thought about, how do we think about generating revenue? There are districts that have thought about, how do we think about collaborations with community partners. I shared an example of Valley Leadership here in the greater Phoenix area that I believe is working with Phoenix L to provide substitute teachers. That's a cost that then the school district is not incurring. So then it's not an added expense.
Are we encouraging districts as well not to take a one-size-fits-all approach to just because something works for one district, it may not necessarily work for another, and it's okay to try things as well. But I think there's a lot of hesitation out there from what I see from districts and individual schools of, well, if we do something and it fails, it could go really, really bad for us, and how do we get back on our feet?
This is where I think districts can think about their workforce, their educators as a workforce, in really understanding their local context. So within their school district, are they understanding who their educators are? Why are they leaving? When are they leaving? Where are they going? What are the reasons for that? Because what may be happening in a rural community may be very different in a large urban community and maybe different from a high school district compared to an elementary school district. So I think that's exactly right. School districts need to start by understanding their own workforce and their own community.
Got it. You had mentioned before that when looking at the issue, a lot of people refer to it as a teacher shortage, but it's really about teacher retention. And I kind of wanted to ask you to explain a little more about how that shifted in the past decade and why that's what we really have to focus on, just keeping teachers in the classroom and not necessarily getting more teachers in the state.
Right. So I would say, reflecting back on where we've been in Arizona on this important conversation, as we discussed earlier, this is a significant issue and it's persistent. It's an issue that we've been grappling with for well over a decade. Looking back, I would say a decade ago, the conversation was really around a teacher shortage. How can we get more teachers in the classroom? And the reality is we cannot recruit our way out of a retention issue. And I think there's a few things that have contributed to evolving that understanding. One is the data. We have much better data on asking educators why they're choosing to stay and or why they're choosing to leave. I know the Department of Education recently released educator survey data that helped illuminate some of that. And the data that we can look in Arizona and say we have a large number of people who are credentialed and certified to teach in the classroom and are of working age and are choosing not to. So I think that data has been really important because it's helped us then say, well, maybe that's not the problem. And I think that's why we are now really looking at retention.
So if retention is so key and holding on to the best that we have, is there also an effort to make sure that those who we are holding on to here in Arizona, who are the best, are training some of those who are newer, who are considering entering the profession as well?
Yes, we know that mentorship programs as well as induction, so induction being you're brand new to the profession or brand new to a school district, as well as that mentoring and that ongoing support are critical. Educators say it's often one of the reasons that they choose to stay. So that is so important and part of this work. I think when we think about bright spots, at the Center for the Future of Arizona, we tend to be hopeful. We're future oriented. We believe and know that Arizona is a great place. So I'm always looking for where's there hope in challenging situations. One of the things that gives me great hope is when we look at the Department of Education's recent survey data on educators, the overwhelming number of educators say, I'm in education because I believe I'm making a positive difference for kids. That's great news. Those are the educators that we want to do everything we can to keep them and to create the conditions that make them want to stay and enable them to teach the next generation to grow the workforce that we need in Arizona. And I think the other positive news is that we can do things to support them through the mentoring. We can create a positive school culture. We can show appreciation. We can ask teachers we can say, we want you to come back, not just expect them to sign a new contract. Those are, can seem like small things, but make a big difference. Because I think it's probably true for each of us that our jobs are far more than a paycheck. That certainly matters, but it's the day-to-day working experience that probably matters most.
Dr. Amanda Burke is the Executive Vice President of the Center for the Future of Arizona, leaving us with some very hopeful, very good news. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Shira Tanzers, KTAR News Education Solutions Reporter. I'm Joe Huizenga, co-host of Arizona's Evening News. We're going to come back and put a bow on this. We're going to find out what Shira took away from this and where she might be going down the road with it as well. It's Arizona's...
Howdy, folks. Vince Marotta again. You ever walk into a place and just relax? That's the exact vibe at Earnhardt Lexus right now during their Invitation to Lexus Summer Sales event. My buddy and general manager, Bull Earnhardt, and his crew at Earnhardt Lexus on Camelback are all about creating an amazing purchase experience, ready to help you find the Lexus you'll love. And when you're talking Lexus, that kind of care makes all the difference. Walk through those doors and you'll feel it instantly. A showroom that feels first class. A lineup of gorgeous Lexus vehicles. A team that's attentive to your needs and ready to help. And straight up honesty from hello to the handshake. And that's not new. That's 75 years of the Earnhardt way, earning the Valley's trust since 1951. So if you're shopping for your next ride, start where it just feels amazing. Stop by Earnhardt Lexus and experience amazing. Experience the no bull Earnhardt difference. at 8th Street in Camelback or shop online at EarnhardtLexus.com.
Hey, it's Mike Broomhead. Tombstone Tactical doing it again. They've got manufacturer sales every weekend through August, Friday through Sunday, ammo all weekend too. Giveaway, Henry Hush 30-30 lever action, PWS suppressor, and a loopholed optic. That's $3,300 total. They're giving it away. No purchase necessary. Also, buy, sell, and trade firearms. They also will trade up. It is a great way to save a bunch of money. Located on the southbound frontage road of the I-17 between Peoria and Dunlap, or online, tombstonetactical.com.
Hey, this is Matt Dagus with Bright Wealth Management. If something happened to you tomorrow, would your family know what to do, where to go, who to call, or what you wanted? If you hesitated, even for a moment, that's exactly why we created our legacy planning checklist. It's free, it's simple, and it walks you through everything that your family would need before they even have to ask. From legal documents to personal wishes, it helps you cover it all. Download your copy today at brightlegacyquiz.com. Again, that's brightlegacyquiz.com.
Hey, it's Joe. Soda's big summer offer and your chance to get 4 weeks for free is almost over. You've got to act now to take advantage. Call them at 1-866-800-SODA. That's 1-866-800-SOTA, and make sure to mention KTAR. I love sharing my story about how I lost 25 pounds in a matter of months with Soda and how great I feel thanks to their no shots, no pills approach. You can lose 15 to 20 pounds in a month and feel incredible too. To get started with your own weight loss success story, you need to check out sodadietandnutrition.com. There they've got hundreds of before and after photos, and they also have 10,000 plus Google reviews as well. To get expert guidance from a nutritionist who will customize a plan for you, call them today. 1-866-800-SODA. 4 weeks from now, everything in your life could be so much better if you call 866-800-SODA today and take advantage of their 4 weeks for free huge summer offer. Soda is, say it with me,
State
of the art.
This is a KTAR News Special. Arizona's teacher shortage.
Well, you heard it right there. I'm Joe Huizinga, KTAR News Education. That's you. That's Shira Tanzer, KTAR News Education Solutions Reporter. I'm Joe Huizinga, co-host of Arizona's Evening News, and we've been the big thing today, Shira, that we've been talking about, obviously, is Arizona's teacher shortage, and I know that in a number of your pieces, you called it out. You said this is a crisis that Arizona is dealing with here. And when we look back on the last couple hours and what we've talked about, I have great optimism, in particular from Dr. Amanda Burke and what she said, that this is an issue that Arizona can improve upon. But when we're talking about losing 8,600 teachers in the past year, 14% of our teachers here in Arizona going away, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. And when you look at it, what are areas that you feel Arizona, first and foremost, needs to focus on to improve this teacher retention issue?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I kind of learned really from our first guest, all four journalists that were able to join us today, they were really talking about creative ways to come up with solutions, because we talk about support, we talk about teacher salary a lot, but sometimes those obvious solutions aren't the easiest, and districts don't always have the funding or the capabilities to deal with those immediately or completely. So a lot of them are coming up with more creative ways. Like Eric Trevino from the Republic talked about housing stipends or creating housing for teachers. You know, we're hearing about these ways that districts are really finding to keep teachers in their districts, to support them on the back end, even if they're not able to do something like boosting pays, getting them a district-only union. They're still bringing them into the conversation. They're still helping them financially, even if it's not in their paycheck, and they're really putting in a lot of effort. Something else that I think will be very interesting to keep an eye on is the election coming up. What happens with our governor? What happens with the school superintendent? With both of those seats, they have the opportunity to influence the legislature in general and policies that could change the teacher shortage. We know Prop 123 and its renewal has been a big topic when it comes to teacher salary, but there are also opportunities for other policies that could help teachers. We talked a lot about teacher training programs, teacher development programs. There are a lot of policies that could be passed that could benefit teacher development programs and really make them more interactive. I mean, we heard from quite a few guests that teachers who are in the classroom getting firsthand experience before they are actually official teachers are more likely to stay because they know what they're getting into. They're less likely to experience burnout. And if that's something that we can help with on the legislative side as well, that could be really good for getting teachers to stay if they already know what the classroom is like before they officially enter it.
Day in and day out, your job as KTAR's teacher, as KTAR's Education Solutions reporter, you talk with district leaders, you talk with teachers, you talk with people in the community, all kinds of specialized programs, and you cover some areas where there is tremendous hope. When you specifically look at Arizona's teacher shortage, and you talk with teachers and you talked with district leaders as well, do you feel like there's hope, or is there more fear surrounding this issue?
I definitely feel like everybody is hopeful. I mean, we're seeing teachers who are not, that unfortunately did leave because they couldn't get what they needed from the district, from the school, from the profession. But we're also seeing teachers. I spoke to a teacher for this story that left the profession and ended up coming back because his district was just so amazing and he was getting that support and his students were great and he felt like he had that legacy and those lessons to pass on to the next generation. So I think overall we're seeing more teachers hopeful about it than we are those who are just disappointed in what we're seeing right now with the shortage. I do think moving forward, districts are starting to hear teachers out a little more. They're starting to be brought into the conversations. They're starting to have opinions that are taken seriously, brought into account when changes are being made in the schools and the classrooms themselves. I think they're showing up at school board meetings. You know, I cover a lot of school board meetings, and I'm hearing so many teachers get up on a weekly basis to make public comments, even if it's not about an agenda item. They just want to have their opinion out there and share what themselves and other teachers may be thinking when it comes to changes in the classroom, changes in the district as a whole, changes in the state. We're really hearing teachers use their voice a lot more. And I think because a lot of teachers maybe didn't feel like their voices were being heard, that influenced a lot of other teachers who are kind of witnessing that to use the voices that they have. So they are stepping up, they are taking a stand, and I do think districts are starting to listen.
When you're at those school board meetings, how often is it that you're hearing teachers as opposed to parents, other leaders? Like, how often are teachers showing up, making sure that their voice is heard?
So parents are definitely still the majority of public comments at school board meetings, but I do think teachers are starting to become a bigger percentage. I'm seeing a lot more show up. We had Nohalani Graf from 12 News mentioned district teacher unions today, and at school board meetings, that is something that is very apparent because you walk in, there's a whole group of people sitting in the back in matching t-shirts, and they all are there for their district teacher union, and they make a huge difference because they can get in 12 public comments from the union about a specific issue, and it's not just a 3-minute comment from one voice about the issue. It's 36 minutes of public comment from all of these teachers who are coming together. So having an opportunity like that, where there are individual district unions, do give teachers more of a voice in that sense when it comes to school board meetings, just because there are more of them and they know that they have more power in groups, and that can change, the way that legislators work.
As KTAR's Education Solutions reporter, 30 seconds, when you focus on all of this teacher shortage and where you've went with all your pieces, everything you heard today, what's the number one piece that you're going to focus on down the road? Where are you most optimistic, most interested in learning about teachers and what Arizonans can do to help this issue moving forward?
I really think it has to do with support at the end of the day. Salary is important. That is something that really is up to legislators. When it comes down to teachers, the community, the district, the administrators, they can really support teachers emotionally, financially, on the back end, make them feel appreciated. I think that's something we're starting to do, and I think it's something we'll see a lot more of into the next year.
She's KTAR News Education Solutions reporter. Easy for me to say. Shira Tanzer, and I am Joe Huizenga, co-host of Arizona's Evening News. You've been watching and listening to Arizona's Teacher Shortage, a roundtable discussion on KTAR News.
Hey, it's Mike Broomhead. Let's be honest, the Arizona summers are brutal, but local crime numbers can be even scarier, especially when it comes to protecting your home. If you think that doorbell camera or expensive alarm system is going to keep burglars out, think again. Professional thieves use Wi-Fi jammers, glass cutters to get in and out long before the police are notified. But you know what Wi-Fi jammers and glass cutters can't do? They can't get through Bulldog security screens. Just ask me. I went to Bulldog Security Screens factory in Tucson, where I attacked those screens with everything from a bowling ball to a sledgehammer, and the only thing I broke was a sweat and a baseball bat. Oh, and there's another added benefit. These screens block the scorching UV rays out of your house, and they look terrific because they look and act just like shade screens. You want real protection for your home? Get Bulldog Security Screens for your windows, patio doors, and entry doors. BulldogSecurityScreens.com. That's BulldogSecurityScreens.com. Bulldog Security Screens. They're tough.
I've had a number of surgeries, and frankly, I don't have time to rehab a surgery and an operation at this point in my life. I didn't want to take time off my kids' activities.
That's why former college and pro football player Bobby Carpenter turned to QC Kinetics. We couldn't be happier saving our patients like him from operating rooms and long recoveries.
I've been able to resume like normal activity for me, which is a lot of running. It's a lot of workouts. I've been very, very blessed with how it's been able to hold up.
For so long, patients have accepted surgery as the only solution. But with new technologies, the medical professionals at QC Kinetics use regenerative treatments, your body's own biologics, to help heal and restore knees, hips, shoulders, and backs.
I actually ran into a friend of mine over at our golf course, and he had his knee done. It felt so well. He'd got his shoulder done. He goes, I can't thank you enough. He'd heard the commercial on the air, and so it's feeling great.
Find out how you can avoid surgery and finally get relief. Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation.
Call QC.